Once you wake up, you can never go back to sleep. Once you discover that the official story is a meticulously crafted lie, it changes everything. The voices of trusted authorities, of scientific priests and governmental oracles have shaped our reality, but their narrative is no longer worthy of our trust. We are told of a gradual, progressive development of civilization, but the old photographs tell a different story. A story that doesn't add up. A story of empty cities, filled with magnificent, impossible architecture. A story of a world that appears to have been inherited, not built. If we were lied to about the nature of our world, how can we trust the official history? The lie becomes so obvious that piecing together the true chronology is like solving a tangled Rubik's Cube. History was erased, rewritten, and distorted, and the main question is, how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you are? Today, we embark on a search for a lost past. This is a story of deception, of concealment, and of a great reset that happened just a couple of hundred years ago. This is a story of the death of an old world and the birth of a new one, and of the children who appeared from nowhere to populate the empty cities. Part 1. The Silent Megalopolises. St. Petersburg, 1860. A majestic and proud city. According to official data, 500,000 people live here. But in the old photographs, the city is empty. Where did they all go? The long shadows tell us it's early morning, but the streets are still deserted. Moscow in the same year, the same picture. 500,000 residents on paper, and not a soul on the streets. Edinburgh, 1840s. Copenhagen, Dresden, Rio de Janeiro, Toronto, Athens. All over the world we see the same thing. Giant, empty cities. Only in London and Paris do we see life. What is going on? We notice a striking discrepancy between the enormous size of the cities and the absence of people in them. Why build an infrastructure designed for millions if only a few 100,000 live in the city? And when people finally appear in photographs decades later, we notice another contrast. The contrast between man and his environment. Primitive Victorians, looking like ants, stand in the shadow of giant, grandiose structures. Look at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, almost 37,000 cubic meters of limestone, weighing over 96 million kilograms. We are told it was built over 12 years by hand without the power tools that did not yet exist. Look at its perfect geometry, the complexity of its patterns. Is this possible? Look at the architecture around the world. London's Crystal Palace, built before the mass production of glass. The Library of Parliament in Ottawa, built for a city with a population of 20,000. The old Pennsylvania Station in New York, erected in 6 years before the advent of mass power tools. These buildings are traces of an impossible architecture. The people we see in the photographs could not have built them. Their clothes are simple, their carts are primitive, their technology is undeveloped. Next to these palaces, we see other architecture. Simple wooden houses, rough finishes, exactly what you'd expect for a generation that traveled by horse-drawn carriage. What are we seeing? We are seeing an inherited world.
But that's not all. If you look closely, you'll notice another strange thing. The windows of many of these magnificent buildings are halfway in the ground. Why? Did the builders intentionally construct houses with windows at ground level or even lower? Official history tries to give simple explanations. Features of the landscape, natural soil accumulation. But modern excavations show a different picture. Under our feet, under the asphalt and sidewalks, entire floors of the past are hidden. The foundations of old churches were actually the first floors, with full-fledged windows and doors. We find columns, arches, mosaics buried under several meters of soil. Some buildings are tilted, as if at some point the soil beneath them suddenly softened and lost its strength. This phenomenon, known as soil liquefaction, is observed during strong earthquakes. Perhaps the cities of the 19th century experienced something similar. But why then do we not see the typical destruction? Most of the buried buildings are not destroyed, but simply covered, as if a giant landslide or mudflow covered them, a global-scale event. And the photographs confirm this. In them, we see thousands of people engaged in clearing huge volumes of earth. They are not building, they are digging out the already existing cities they inherited. Part 3. The Cabbage Patch Kids, the repopulation program. If the cities were empty, where did the people come from later? The answer may lie in the strangest and most disturbing chapter of 19th century history. The classic literature of that time is full of orphans: Oliver Twist, Jane Eyre, Tom Sawyer. The romanticization of orphanhood, the image of a child who makes his own way in life. But what if there is something more behind this literary trend? In the 19th century, numerous orphanages and foundling institutions appeared all over the world. Their scale is staggering. The London Foundling Hospital, dozens of orphanages in New York, hundreds in Great Britain. Italy reported 32,000 abandoned children a year. Spain, 15,000. In Moscow, by the 1880s, up to 18,000 infants were received annually. Where did so many orphans come from? Why did this phenomenon acquire such a scale? The official version, the social stigma of illegitimate children. But did governments care about morality so much that they developed entire systems for relocating orphans, which was a huge burden on the budget? It is obvious that a more important goal was behind this global program: the settlement of territories. All the rhetoric about morality was just propaganda to hide a large-scale repopulation operation. It was then that the orphan trains appeared in the USA, transporting hundreds of thousands of children to different states. It was then that mass shipments of foundlings to Canada, Australia, and New Zealand took place, where they were used as cheap labor. And it was then that the strangest cultural artifact of that era appeared: postcards with babies.
Part 4. The Baby Factories. At first glance, this is just quaint art of the past. Babies in a cabbage patch, babies in nests, babies hatching from eggs. But if you study them more closely, a creepy picture emerges. Many postcards have inscriptions: "For sale," "Choose," "The babies have just grown," "Modern baby bazaar," "No returns." Each product has a description: "I will be good," "I won't wet the bed," "I will love you." This is not just humor, this is real advertising. In our collection, there are postcards with postmarks sent to the USA, where one woman writes to another, "Hurry up and order before they are sold out." The first full-length film in history, The Cabbage Fairy from 1896, tells the story of a fairy who takes babies from a cabbage patch and sells them to rich couples. This is not just a coincidence, this is a reflection of reality. The cabbage, the stork bringing babies, all these are not just fairy tales, these are cultural codes masking the truth that in the 19th century, children were not just sold, they were, perhaps, grown. Remember the incubators for premature babies at the world's fairs? We're told that this was a charitable action to save lives. But why were these medical exhibitions held in amusement parks, next to fairs dedicated to eugenics, the pseudoscience of improving the human race? Why were tickets sold to see these babies, as if for an attraction? And the main question, where did 80,000 premature babies come from? Conclusion: the rewritten history. If you put it all together, the empty cities, the buried architecture, the global orphan resettlement program, and the baby factories, a picture of a great reset emerges. In the early 19th century, a global catastrophe occurred, leading to depopulation. Then, a repopulation program began. The people we see in old photographs are not the builders, they are the heirs. Heirs settled in empty, excavated cities with no idea of who built them or for what purpose. Their own history was erased and replaced with a new, convenient version. Where did these new people come from? Were they the product of incubators, of baby farms? Were these cloning methods known to ancient civilizations? We cannot know for sure, but we can see the traces. Traces in the myths of fertility goddesses like Artemis of Ephesus, depicted with multiple breasts or eggs. Traces in the symbolism of the Masons, who designed the Statue of Liberty, the image of the same ancient goddess, and installed it in the main port of arrival for immigrants and orphans. This version of history doesn't fit in the head. It shatters everything we were taught. But the old photographs, postcards, and documents do not lie. They are a glitch in the matrix, a glitch in the official reality. And once you notice it, you can no longer unsee it, and you can never go back to sleep.